Let's talk a little bit about how to make sure that you're looking engaging with your prospect on a video call. Now, a lot of this is all about what we call eye line in the filmmaking world. So, all right, let me ask you this. In an actual physical face-to-face meeting, would you invite your prospect in, and would you then stand over the top of them whilst they're sitting down, so they're kind of looking up at you, looking like you're domineering over them? No, you would not. Would you likewise get them to stand up and you to kind of sit down so they're domineering over you? No, you would not. Would you kind of look at them and talk to them and then kind of stare off into the distance all the way through the entire meeting? No, you wouldn't. That's really, really rude, and it just looks really, really bad. So it's really weird to me when you find that people in video meetings are doing these things, but within a video meeting sphere instead of a face-to-face meeting sphere. So how do we make sure that we're not falling foul of the same stuff? Well, first of all, we want to make sure that the camera on a device that we're filming with and using for the video meeting is at the same height as our eye line. Now, if we're sitting there having a device that's too low, then it might look like it kind of is empowering us to a certain extent. I mean, you see this in action movies all the time. You know, the hero walks into a room and the camera's nice and low to make them look heroic and, all empowered and everything. But that's not necessarily a good thing, because you want them a lot of times to be a relationship of business equals. Do you remember we said? Likewise, you see people who are taking selfies with their camera really, really high. And you don't want that either. Whilst it may be great for selfies because it flatters it's very flattering in terms of the lines on your face. It also, first of all, that's very uncomfortable to hold for an hour. But in addition to that, it also just it makes you look smaller within the meeting. Instead, what you want is the camera to be at exactly the same height as your eyes. How do we do this? Well, if you're using a laptop, something like a laptop stand would be a really good way of doing this, or just even raising it up on a shoebox or just a shelf or something like that. Just think laterally with this stuff. You're going to do the same thing when it comes to an iPad or a mobile phone. You can get tripods for mobile phones that can kind of do the job, but generally speaking, you want to raise it up a little bit. And then when you're on these calls here, you want to really be kind of looking at the actual barrel of the lens as much as possible, not looking at yourself, which is something that everybody does. We all know this. We're all kind of like, oh, we look okay, right? You want to make sure that as often as you can, you're looking down the barrel of the lens whenever possible. That kind of also applies in a strange way when some people put webcams up on the wrong screen. Now, it will look really strange if I'm presenting to you and talking and I'm kind of looking over here and looking in a totally different direction. Because what they've done is basically they've got a dual monitor setup and they've put the webcam over on one monitor and then they're kind of looking at the main screen in front of the other one. It just looks really disengaging and really, really strange and looks like they're not paying attention to you. And it's always a bit of a strange thing and I find it a little bit odd. So, worst case scenario with these things, what you have is a camera or a laptop that's too low or too high or too low, and you can kind of just see underneath of someone's chin, which is not a very good thing to see. Your chin may be lovely, but generally speaking, we don't want too much focus going on that. Or likewise, sometimes you see people who have their webcam so high and they're looking down at the thing there, and they look like a Bond villain. It's just really, really awful. So instead, what you should be doing is placing your device, whether it's a mobile phone or a laptop, just in a way that kind of lines up with your eye line. And then kind of try and look down the barrel of the lens as much as possible. Don't need to get too worried about this because we all sit there with our eye line maybe slightly lower, like I'm looking now, and that's generally accepted to be okay. But wherever possible, if you can look down the barrel of the lens, that's you looking at the prospect, which ultimately is what you want to have.